What I'm about to say will very likely change the way how you view your behavior, namely that your brain doesn't discern between what's good and what's bad, but what's worth repeating. And the unfortunate news here is, this can not only come from good habits, but also from bad habits, like being addicted to your phone. You see, it's very likely that you clicked on this video because you have some kind of social media addiction. And you probably want to understand, why do you keep on going onto your phone despite you not being the biggest fan of doom scrolling, despite you talking with your friends and saying, I don't like doing it? And don't worry, because over the next couple of minutes, I'm going to explain the science behind dopamine's role in habit formation, and also why, in combination with our modern environment, bad habits like doom scrolling are so easy for you to engage in. And that's not all. We're also going to discuss how to fix this. So let's start with dopamine, the molecule that's become mainstream over the last couple of months. It has multiple functions in the brain, but for the purpose of this video, see it as a salience signal. It essentially influences how attractive an activity feels, which, when weighed against the effort required, then shapes whether we should end up pursuing it or not. And this leads me to why bad habits like pointlessly being on your phone are so easy to us, and why good habits are so much harder. The bad habit is easily accessible, it has a high immediate reward, and the ramifications of it are highly discounted. I'm going to make a video on this specifically in the future. What you have to understand with this is, our brain is not totally aware, or at least not totally emotionally aware, of the ramifications in the future. Why? Because we do not feel them now. And what is the setup of the free things that I just mentioned earlier associated with? Well, an increase in dopamine levels and more wanting to be engaged in this habit. How is it with good habits, on the other hand? Let's take a look. High immediate costs, delayed rewards, and lower accessibility, right? If you go to the gym, you're gonna need 10 to 20 minutes in your car or on the bike to get there. You're gonna have to train for like an hour or two until you get a pump. And then after a couple of months, you're gonna notice improvements. What does this setup result in? Less dopamine release, and therefore less of a wanting to do the habit in the first place. By now you should also notice that there's a huge difference in your brain between wanting something and liking something, right? You can like good habits, but if they're not salient enough for your brain, you're not gonna want them. That's why you do the bad habits in the first place, right? You may dislike them, you may not like the idea of being on your phone for 6 hours a day, but your brain ends up wanting it because the immediate reward is just so high. But despite knowing this now, it's very likely that you're not satisfied, right? You know that your brain, in combination with our modern environment, is basically a formula for self-sabotage, but you want to figure out how to fix this. You want to find a solution that will actually improve your life. And don't worry, because that's exactly what I'm going to show you. How can we make bad habits harder than good habits, or not something that we just dislike, but something that we can trick our brain into not wanting? I'm going to give you 3 practices that you can start doing immediately. The first one being, reduce the immediate reward for bad habits while increasing it for good habits. How are you going to do this? Well, by making bad habits less accessible and gradually, not all at once, gradually replacing them with more accessible good ones. One way how to do this is by only accessing apps like TikTok or Instagram through your browser. I mean, everybody who does this knows how much it sucks, how annoying it is. And therefore having all the apps that are associated with productivity, like language learning apps, on your home screen, fully accessible, so that you can just open them, compared to the apps like the ones we just mentioned, which you all of a sudden can't anymore. Another way how to do this is to just put your phone outside of the room, and instead next to your laptop, because often you are in front of your laptop, have a book or a journal next to you, depending on what you prefer more. Because often when, we're on our computer and we have an assignment and we're done, we have a break for about 30 minutes or an hour, we end up pulling out our phone for no reason, right? It's become so habitualized that we just end up doing it without thinking about it. So having a journal by your side that you can open instead will, of course, reduce screen time, and with that, your phone addiction. You can also, for a bonus, add a note on the book or on your journal that reminds you of how good you feel after reading it. That, of course, will increase the immediate reward reinforcement and therefore make you more likely than actually do the habit. Remember, of course, that you don't have to do this all at once. If you want a smooth transition, you can have some days where you have a book next to your computer and some days where you still have your phone. Just remember that with time, you should have more days where you have a book next to you than your phone, and then you should be good. The second practice that you can do is become more emotionally aware of the ramifications of bad habits. This will increase the immediate costs that are associated with them and therefore make them less attractive. This may be a little bit conventional, but expose yourself to media that makes you feel unpleasant. So watch videos or documentaries that make you aware of the damage that doom scrolling, for example, has on your brain and how it will really ruin your life if you stay addicted to it for the next couple of years. I mean, I made a video on this. That will perhaps not scare you, but will tell you how much it drains the meaning out of your life. And if that's not enough for you, go into the hardcore videos that make it visually obvious. The third practice you can implement is link your life state to good and bad habits, for example, through journaling. What you're gonna do is compare the positive aspects of good habits with the negative aspects of bad habits within your own life. So I want you to truly visualize and feel how those moments looked and felt. Like, take a couple of minutes, just pause the video to imagine that version of yourself who's on their phone pointlessly scrolling for an hour, and that version of yourself who's studying, reading, or socializing for an hour, and try to feel the difference between that version after doing the habit. And if you've done it by now, it's very likely that you will notice how the good habit version of you was more meaningful and pleasant than the bad habit one. I mean, it makes sense. In retrospect, a reward from a good habit will almost always be better than the one that you get from a bad habit because it's one that actually ends up improving your life. And that leads us full circle back to the beginning of the video where we talked about dopamine, which is not just released when we receive a reward, but also when we simply think about it. And that's exactly what you're doing in this practice. You're tricking your brain into wanting the good habit by making it vividly remember how good it felt in the past. You know what's so funny now? I have a surprising revelation for you. It's very likely that you've been doing this practice already in the past, subconsciously. Take as a simple example when you go on your phone or look in a gallery from the past and you see images of you with friends on a trip, or a child version of yourself who was creative and who still desperately wanted to see the world. And all of a sudden, you have a spike of dopamine, motivation, and you feel that need to be in that similar state again. You either then end up calling your friends and talking about them how, man, we should do this trip again, or you remind yourself how that small childish version of you was still so eager to see the world, and how maybe you can adopt some of that mindset to now. So if you haven't tried this third practice out, do it now and see if you feel more motivated to engage in the good habit, and you can let me know if your need to be on your phone, to pointlessly scroll, is still as high as it was at the beginning of this video. I would be happy to hear your story. And that leads me to the end of the video. I hope that I was able to give you a little bit of clarity and give you a path that you can follow for the next couple of days. It would be fair from my side to mention the fourth practice, which I didn't include in the free practices before because it's not immediately tangible on day one, namely consistency. So if you keep on repeating something and you notice how you just keep improving your life through it, if it's reading, studying, socializing, think about what good habit it could be. That ends up being a reward itself, but that's something you won't feel on day one, which is why that's something for another video and something you should focus on in the future. But right now, the things I gave you should be suffice. The last thing I want to remind you of is believe in yourself. Believe in that younger version of yourself who desperately wanted to see the world and, who was so motivated to experience all these new things out there. Repeat a little bit of that version and you'll be good. I also believe in you, and the only thing I can say is see you in the next one.